You are listening to another episode of the Business of Aesthetics podcast series, brought to you by our co-sponsors, MRP, Laser Optech, and Equa Marketing. We also want to thank our silver sponsors, iLease Works and Pronox. If you would like to network and share your experience with our podcast guests and other aesthetic industry professionals, join our Facebook or LinkedIn communities by searching for Business of Aesthetics. Today we're going to be speaking with one of the finest experts in aesthetics.
Get ready for an extraordinary opportunity. You're invited to join our exclusive monthly webinar, brought to you by the Aesthetic Institute and the Business of Aesthetics community. Don't let this chance slip through your fingers. Secure your spot now for a game-changing experience. Explore the details on our homepage at www.businessofesthetics.org and get set to transform your strategies.
Why do some Medspa practices fail, especially during the first 3 years, while others prosper? Usually the first 3 years are crucial. And so we're going to get into some of the lessons learned. We have some people who have been there, done that. So we're going to pick their brain, so that we all benefit from it. Now, if you're listening and you are not in the first 3 years and you still want to learn, I'm sure you will learn a ton of insights and, interesting things that hopefully will, help you along the way. So let's jump in. If you are not a member of TIE, which is the Aesthetic Institute, we'll put a link in chat. Feel free to join. The membership is on us. And the website is theaestheticsinstitute.com/register. We'll put a link, so just click on the link and join. The membership is on us. You will get weekly content, blogs, newsletters, educational update, resources. You will also have a member area where every single event we have done in the past and we continue to do going forward, you would be able to apply those principles as it pertains to your success. So we try to bring interesting information. So I know we appreciate your time. I know it's a valuable time and you probably are taking time away from your family. So appreciate it. We have people from literally across the world and definitely in every time zone in the US, East Coast, West Coast, and Central time zone. So thank you for being here. This is a little bit about myself. I have 18 years of experience in digital marketing. I started a company called Equa Marketing, which is ekwa.com. I guess one of my team members can put a link to my bio if anyone is interested. I also founded a community called Business of Aesthetics. So we have around 60,000 members right now. So it's a Facebook group. It's a podcast. It's all kinds of events we run. But that's a more open community. You don't have to, join. It's not like an academy. It's more of a community. The Facebook group, of course, you have to join. We have around 3,500 plus people now. We also have a LinkedIn group. Check it out. We do have one of the largest podcasts. I'll talk more about this. I also founded the Aesthetics Institute with a very specific goal of focusing on the business side of aesthetics. So we don't focus on clinical just because, that's not our expertise. So we focus on the business side. So anything to do with how to attract patients, how to keep patients, how to grow profits, how to attract team members, how to keep team members, how to motivate people, what's working, what's not, lessons learned. So all of those things is what the Aesthetic Institute brings to the table. I've written a few books, more than 100 articles. I guess our team has around 250 people now. So Equa has around 200 people, and we have 50 people working on all the other projects that we are involved in. So I want to take a minute to also thank our team for putting it all together and organizing all of this. So if you're not currently listening to the podcast, we'll put a link. Please subscribe to it. It's the Business of Aesthetics podcast. You can just go and subscribe to it on iTunes or Google Play, or just go to the website businessofesthetics.org and you can learn more about the podcast and everything else we do. Currently, we get in some months more than 50,000 downloads. So it is probably the number one podcast when it comes to anybody in the business of aesthetics. 50,000 downloads a month. So we have currently close to 1 million downloads because we've been doing it for a while now. Let me introduce you to Ryan. Ryan is going to be helping me. We were supposed to have another panelist Cassie, who was supposed to join us, but she couldn't make it. So I thought I'll invite Ryan. Ryan has a lot of in-depth experience from a marketing perspective. And given that I'm going to be more of the moderator, even though I do know a little bit about marketing, I thought Ryan, adding his perspective, because he has talked to, literally dozens and dozens of practice owners who own med spas, dermatology practices, plastic surgeons and so forth, just in the last few months. So he knows what people are worried about, what keeps them up at night, what's working, what doesn't, because he works with them to develop their own strategy for success and growth. Of course, he has a marketing bent to it, meaning all about attracting and keeping patients. But I know he listens to doctors about what they are looking to do. So he knows some of the challenges that everyone is facing in 2023. So Ryan, welcome. Anything you want to add?
No, just really excited to be here. Again, this is exactly what I love talking about. This is my wheelhouse, and it gets me really excited, and definitely a passion of mine, helping people kind of crack that marketing code and the psychology behind it. I've done everything from, as you mentioned, political campaigns to B2B to B2C to everything else. So, but this is probably my favorite in terms of where doctors are putting, and nurse practitioners and business owners are putting their everything into to make sure that they're growing and reaching the audience they want to reach. And I love taking part in that. Thanks so much for inviting me. Big shoes to fill as the fill in here, but I will absolutely give it my all and be happy to participate. And thank you again for inviting me. Really excited.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ryan. Anyways, if you want to learn more about what Equa does, this is the website, ekwa.com. We'll put a link. You can, just check it out if you have some time. Let me introduce you to Dr. Hardik Soni. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Dr. Hardik. Dr. Hardik is a medical director of Ethos Spa, Skin and Laser Center. He's also an entrepreneur, so he doesn't just do one thing. Like me, he does many things. I think the fair thing for me to do is to have you introduce yourself. Like, say hi, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What got you into aesthetics? Tell us kind of a little bit about your story, where you started, where are you today, and what are you up to? So hopefully people can meet you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much for having me, first of all, Naren. I do appreciate it. So my story starts in 2008, and this is probably right at the moment where kind of the med spas are starting to take off. We had a couple of pioneers who kind of beat me to it in the early 2000s, and even some before it. But I would really say kind of the latter part of the early 2000s is when we really started to see, a growth phase of this industry. And I'm an ER physician by training, and my story starts actually in the emergency room. I was working in the ER one shift, and one of the C-suite executives was walking down the ER, and apparently his wife was starting a med spa, and they were looking for a medical director. Mind you, I had no experience in aesthetics. I mean, I heard about Botox and that was it. And so kind of taps me on my shoulder in between seeing a stroke patient and someone with back pain. And he's like, hey, Dr. Soni, you interested in aesthetics? I'm like, aesthetics? I'm not a surgeon. I'm not a dermatologist. What do you mean? He's like, well, look, we're looking for a medical director of a place we're opening up. If you're interested, I'm going to pay for your training. And, I think it would be at a very minimum, you'll get free training out of it. And maybe you'll learn something. And so I said, sure, why not? Because ER is pretty much shift work. And during a given month, we work about 15, 16 days a month. So I have a lot of free time on my hands. So I trained, and let me explain, my training at that time comprised of a 6-hour course where I got to inject one patient for Botox. I got to share a syringe of Juvederm. And that was it. That was over the weekend. And that Monday, I was injecting patients. Now, in retrospect, it horrifies me because right now I'm both a trainer for Allergan and Galderma. And I go in to do a lot of trainings, and people are woefully underprepared right now. So thinking back on those days, it's by the grace of God, I didn't hurt anyone and as physicians, we're taught, and medical professionals, we're taught to be risk averse, especially in traditional medicine, above all, do no harm. So that's how I got started. 6 months later, I decided to leave that place and open up my own location. Not for any other reason other than, I left for the same reason that most people probably leave their current practices. They're either undervalued from a professional level, or they're undervalued from a financial level, or from a growth perspective. And then that just set off my career down this path. And now, we have our 4th location opening up, with plans to open up another 10 more before the end of next year. I, along with my partner, developed an electronic medical record specifically for the aesthetic space. We're at the growth phase. We have about 150 practices using it, but hopefully we'll get to a higher number. And then we also do e-commerce on facemedstore.com, where we, have some aesthetic supplies and other things that may kind of benefit people's practices. But there's a tremendous amount of growth in this space. I don't think we've seen the end of it, but there's also been a lot of consolidation. You're going to see a lot of big players start moving in your areas that are really going to leverage the efficacy of their marketing and their numbers and economies of scale. And I think unless you really start looking at your business and thinking about how you're going to build it, how you're going to grow it, and how it's going to be sustainable 10 years from now. Because I think the traditional concept of a med spa is going to be slowly eroded away into something more that is more of a lifestyle kind of practice. And so there are a lot of changes coming. And I think if you're just beginning in this space, it's very important to have a solid business plan and concurrently a solid marketing plan. I see a lot of people spending a lot of money on opening up these big, beautiful spaces, spending $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 on lasers, and 2 years later they're selling their equipment because they're about to go bankrupt. And they ignore kind of the basics of marketing, the basics of brand building. And this is what I love to talk to other people about. My interest is along your interest, Naren and Ryan. I love marketing. How do you attract new people? How do you build a sustainable business? How do you ensure that that business is going to grow and is going to be around the next 5, 10 years? Or you're going to be able to sell off to a private equity, because that seems to be the trend nowadays as well. And so I don't want to hog up more time. Thank you for giving me more than enough.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll, of course, tap into all of you as we jump in. So let me just keep moving forward. So these are your businesses. Maybe we can talk more about this. This is what you mentioned, the skin and laser, as well as the med store. Ange, I don't want to butcher your last name. Can you share your last name? And
it's Klippel. It
Klippel.
Looks like it's Klippel, but it's Klippel.
Oh, okay, got it. Klippel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi.
Klippel. I said it right?
Yes. Yeah. Perfect.
Ange is a master esthetician. She's a national EMT and skin nerd chemical peel queen. You have 17 years of experience, which is amazing.
18 now. Yeah.
18.
Yeah.
I need to update the slide. And you too are a educator, right? So you train
Yes.
people. You have been doing that for a while now with the Dermal Institute. You're considered one of the top 25 estheticians. Again, same question. How did you get into aesthetics? Who are you? Where did you start? And just help us get to where you are today.
Okay. Well, Naren, thank you so much for having me. I was so honored when Emily invited me to join. Yeah. So I actually started when I was 14. I never remember seeing my grandmother until then, which is kind of sad, but she had, I know now is glycation, but she just looked like someone had a waffle iron on her face. And I went to my mom and I was like, Mom, what is wrong with grandma? And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, what's wrong with her face? She's like, she has wrinkles. I'm like, that is not just wrinkles. And I'm 52, so that was a long time ago, So I'm home with the Noxzema and the Pons, and my mom's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't want to look like grandma." So I've always been interested in beauty and aesthetics, and I didn't even know aesthetics was a thing until like 20 years ago. I started going to a med spa. I had really bad rosacea. And the first thing they gave me was microdermabrasion, which was horrible because it just made it worse. But it was good because then I started researching and I was like, I want to go to school and I want to help people with their skin. And so I was researching. I decided I'm moving to Utah. It was the only state that had the master aesthetics program. I wanted to do the max I could do. Growing up, I always wanted to be a nurse. And so this was like okay, I'll do this, but I love this so much more. But yeah, and then my first day of school, I went and said, "Hey, Brenda's the owner of Cameo." That's where I went to school. I was like, "Hey, I want to be an instructor." She's like, "It's your first day of school." I was like, "I know, but I've always been a trainer. Like every job, I've been a trainer." She's like, "Come see me when you graduate." So when I graduated, I was like, "I want to be a teacher." She's like, "Go get some experience." And so one thing I found on this side, because you guys are kind of on the opposite side, but it's really like a super awesome marriage because you have to have all the marketing, but you have to have the perfectly skilled person to make your business be successful. If you're missing one of those two pieces, you're going to fail. And that's what I see a lot. And so I decided I want to teach girls, and I give them lots of tips on marketing and those things too. I try to incorporate that in my training, but really I focus on, the aesthetic side of it, but just really good education, because I've seen a lot of businesses fail because they have had a couple burns with a laser, and people don't feel like they can trust them. So you have to have really, really skilled, highly skilled technicians to make your business successful. And so I still work, I have my own spa and I still work, but I still teach, and I love both of those. And so, yeah, last year I was the top 2 esthetician in Utah, and then with the Dermal Institute, top 25 out of the nation for educators. That was voted by students. So very honored for all of that experience and education and here, and hopefully I can help some people not make some mistakes.
Oh, fair enough. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us. Now let's get to the fun part. The reason you're here is you have been, in the shoes of the people who are here listening to us today. You've started a practice, you have built it. Of course, everyone has a different perspective because of your life experiences, your background, what you have done, but both of you have more than 15 years of experience in aesthetics, in the trenches. So I'm really looking for real advice, things that you did, things that worked, things that didn't work. Even if you failed, I think there's so much to learn from that, right? So share your knowledge, your experience, be honest. Even if it's something that's not the popular thing, just say it, because this is a place where I think we learn from people who are very honest and straightforward. So just share your experiences and share what's going on. So this is the Advanced Aesthetics Academy and Spa. This is Angie's website. So, we can put a link, Advanced Aesthetics Academy and spa.com. So both our panelists today, Dr. Hardik and Angie, we'll include all that information in the chat. So sorry, let me just now go back to my questions. I'm going to go to this view now. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to pull up my questions. Every one of you had sent in questions in advance. So what I have done is I have broken those questions down, and I have I'm going to ask both of you. So Dr. Soni, do you mind if I call you Hardik? Is that okay?
No, that's fine.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you a question, Hardik. As the founder and CEO of a Medspa that you started back in 2008, 6 months after you helped that friend of yours or the person you met, as a medical director, what are some of the key factors that you think contribute to early success? I mean, looking back, if you were to go back and tell yourself, hey, these are things you need to focus on, what would you tell yourself?
Yeah. So I wasn't successful. I probably did everything wrong you can think of. I had very little business sense, made a bunch of mistakes, and the only thing that kept me going wasn't passion. I think people love to throw the word around, passion, like it's, going out of style. Passion is great. That and $1 will get you a cup of coffee, maybe not even that anymore. What's much more important is planning, number one, and perseverance. And the ability to recognize when you are making a mistake or when a mistake has been made, you have to be able to pivot and correct it. Because if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you're not going to make it. So it was strictly perseverance and probably a little bit of luck. And remember, when I opened up in 2008, this is when basically the market had collapsed, the real estate market. I opened up in a very well-to-do area, but most of the inhabitants of that area were in the financial sector. So where Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers started closing up, I didn't feel the effects of that till a year later. So certainly macroeconomics can play a role in our business. But if there are 2 or 3 things I can, clarify for you, first, have a business plan. If you don't have, and I'll use the word passion this time, if you don't have enough passion, and I'm being a little bit facetious, but if you don't have enough passion to sit down, write a business plan and figure out exactly how you're going to open up, where you're going to get the funding, what type of services you're going to offer, how you're going to staff it, and most importantly, how you're going to differentiate yourself. I think that's a big mistake. That shows that you may not be prepared to enter this space. So there's plenty of business plans available on my blog. I posted my business plan that I used for free. And it's a 40-page document that I wrote with financial modeling and predictions and all that. So write a business plan. Know what you're going to do, first of all. The second thing is, do you have enough money to open this? The average Medspa, and again, it is location specific, can cost anywhere from $65,000 to $1 million plus to open up. The biggest mistake I made when I opened up was I did a complete build out. Okay. So let me give you some numbers and then it'll kind of make sense a little bit. My first Medspa took about $500,000 to open up. I had only secured funding for $300,000 of that $500,000. The market crashed and I wasn't able to get that money in the conventional places. I pretty much had to go to, high interest loans. We're talking about 18, 19, 20% just to be able to open up. The second Medspa I opened up was for $65,000. It became profitable at month 1. The first one took me a little over 2 years to become profitable. And within the first 2 to 3 years, I probably should have closed down my doors because I was hemorrhaging money to the tune of $20,000 a month. The only reason I kept going was because I worked night shifts as an ER physician just to keep the business going. So it's not passion, it's the ability to just persevere when everything is beating down on you. And so at least the people who are joining us now, they have communities like this that you've created that can hopefully shepherd them and direct them in the right guidance. And lastly, thirdly, and this is important, please don't buy $300,000-$400,000 worth of equipment off the back. For the love of God, the top 2 procedures for med spas are injectables. Requires about $5,000 to $10,000 of capital to get started in that. You want a device, get a PRP. Consider secondhand devices from reputable dealers. Keep your costs down. Figure out what you're going to focus on. And then you can start layering in the services and really start implementing a growth strategy, but keep it simple. Keep your costs down. And lastly, don't ignore marketing. If I could go back, what I would have done differently is I wouldn't have bought all the equipment. I would have bought one piece of equipment and I would have funneled even more money into marketing. What I've noticed is that our brand is so strong, we can open up a location and be profitable in 1 month because we generate a traffic of 80,000 visitors a month now, 90% of which aren't even in our state, So those are my takeaways.
Thank you so much. Let me ask Ange a question. you have opened your own spa. Now, Dr. Hardik shared with us some of the mistakes he made. And also you've helped quite a few people. What is your experiences when it comes to mistakes? Like, what are the things that I think the way I look at mistakes is like, like going to Harvard and spending $500,000. I'm not saying going to Harvard is a mistake, but it's so expensive, right?
You better hope there are no alums in here.
I hope not. So, I mean, the point that I'm trying to make is you spend $500,000 and the second time around it cost you $65,000 and you made money in month 2. First time you put $500,000 and you lost money for 2 years where you're losing around 20 grand a month and you kept it alive by working at night. So you are like a 18, 20 hour working machine to keep the lights on. And that takes, but it was in a way a lesson, right? I mean, you learned all the things not to do and all the things to watch out for the next time. So Ange, what are some of the mistakes you have learned?
Okay, so yeah, most of my career I spent like being a spa director at a school, so teaching. So when I decided to open my own spa, I didn't really have that experience of opening a spa. And I'm a little bit older generation, so I think I had like a MySpace. I didn't really do social media, and so for me, social media is so huge. It's free marketing. People get to really know you and who you are. They get to learn to trust you and to see how you interact with other people and to see kind of who your followers are. Because I always tell my students, I have zero competition. And I always tell them, you have zero competition because people want you, but you have to show them who you are. And so when I first opened, I wasn't really, I wasn't social media savvy. And so I had to really learn some social media skills and ask people for help. And, I've had people come to my academy and teach classes on Reels because I realized that that's a big part of this industry is social media, because people they have a certain trust for people that are out there on social media, and you can educate your clients so much and tell them, why do you need this treatment? And you can do it all for free on social media. Sure, you can do paid ads and you can get more attention, but for me, so the first 2 years is pretty slow because I wasn't really utilizing social media. But once you start doing that, it just changes everything. It's a huge game changer. So, and I see a lot of girls, I'm on a lot of aesthetics groups, and they'll say, hey, I've been in business 4 months and I haven't had one client. And I look at their social media and there's like, they're talking about they went out with a friend and really not much about their business other than like a promo. Oh, I'm doing this special. And I'm like, oh, you really have to use your social media because people are really using that to refer to who you are as a person and what you're offering.
Absolutely. I do see lots of trends in aesthetics. I've been in the space for like 15 years. And I do agree. I think there are more and more estheticians because they become their own brand, right? And they become their own brand through Instagram. And they don't need a lot of expensive equipment. I mean, they can do injectables, they can throw parties, they can rent a space. So many of them are kind of running their own businesses. Small, start small with an Instagram page. And then, of course, eventually you make that transition from it's you and your hands and your time to it's a business. I have 10 people working for me. I'm making money when I'm not working. Rather, the business is making money for me. So there's all kinds of trends and all kinds of things. And I do appreciate every single one who's sharing their experiences as we are talking here on chat. And by the way, one of my daughters goes to an Ivy League. So I was just joking. I didn't mean that it's a mistake. I just said it's expensive. And sometimes like I didn't go to Ivy League, but I learned by like Dr. Hardik, I made mistakes. And of course, it's my mistake. So I own it. I live with it and I learn from it. So I don't get down by it. I just rather look at it as it's tuition. I'm paying tuition. Let me get the most out of the tuition I just paid. Let me just switch gears for a minute. Hardik, let's switch gears and talk about teams. You have 3 businesses, so I bet you're not doing everything today. I'm sure in 2008 you felt like probably you did a lot of things on your own. So talk about teams, culture, again, perhaps you can share your mistakes and what do you know today about people and teams?
Yeah, and I think Ange alluded to this earlier. I think once you get comfortable with, certainly opening up a business and running a business, the most challenging part is how do you really cultivate the culture? How do you really build the team? And it's something that I struggle with even to this date. It is becoming increasingly more difficult to really attract client, or to really attract staff that's going to really represent your vision, what you are about, because unless you really have a clear-cut direction of, number one, why are you in business and how are you going to help your clients, and how are members of your team going to help you execute that, it becomes very difficult to stay successful. The most important part of my team is the front desk girl, really, at the end of the day. Something as simple as just greeting patients, making sure that they feel welcome. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant or complicated or anything like that. Something like being nice to patients, appreciating the fact that in today's environment and atmosphere, and maybe some economic certainties, people are still coming to your space. So the biggest component of our culture is our customers mean a lot to us. Take care of them. With rare exception, they're almost always right, is my philosophy, unless obviously someone's becoming abusive and towards the staff, then we don't tolerate that at our place of business. But that's very important, is that take care of the clients that come in, and conversely, as a business owner, you have to take care of your staff. And the main way to attract good people and hold on to them is to really demonstrate a commitment to their personal growth, both in terms of financial, because everyone wants to make sure that they're at a place that 5 years down the line, they want to be making more money. It's as simple as that. They want to have the ability to have ongoing education. They want the ability to maybe move up into a leadership position. So you really have to inspire your team and create hope for them, that where they started is not where they're going to end up, especially if they embrace, your vision. And at the end of the day, my vision is simple: take care of the person who walks in through the door. It's not only how you talk to them, how you treat them, but also with the medical professionals that are taking care of them. Make sure you offer your suggestions based on the patient's best interest and not our best interest. And it's an ongoing struggle. It's a work in progress. Sometimes you feel like you're taking a couple steps forward, but then you got, a couple steps backwards, and you kind of right back to where you started. But you got to really work on building the team. And lastly, I will say, get rid of the people who don't fit within your team, and get rid of them early. Because a toxic person on your team will just fester, and they will really pull everyone down. So you have to be able to recognize who's got that drive to learn what we're doing and to really buy into your vision, and who's got the staying power to kind of, make sure they're there for your growth 5, 10, 15 years down the line. And that's what I would say.
Thank you. Ange, I'm also going to ask you about leadership and people. I know you said that's kind of your strength and where you came from, right? It doesn't mean that you're not passionate about marketing, but you felt that's kind of, like that's who you are. So share your experiences and, knowledge on this topic, about leadership, about people, about hiring, just in general.
Hardik, I love that you said about the front desk person greeting somebody. I'm like obsessed with Gordon Ramsay, and he has all these great shows, and there's a competition where these groups are competing. And one of the groups, when the people were kind of grading them, said they weren't greeted at this event, and so they didn't feel welcome. So they would never go back. And so it really does start at the front, whoever it is at the front. It could be me at the front, or the doctor could be at the front, but you want that person just to feel welcome. Because think if you go to visit somebody at their home and they're just like, come on in. You want to, hi, I'm so glad you're here. Come in. It's so huge. And I think being a good leader, I've taught, we counted all, 2,000 students over the years. And being a good leader is really leading by example. You have to be a good example. For me as an esthetician, I have to have good skin. I have to have good skills. I have to have the experience to teach them. And, I like to give them options. Like, and just like with medicine, you can do things in different ways as long as you're still getting the end result and the client is happy. And I like to teach them those options. And, as a really good leader, that it's okay to give them a couple paths that they can choose as long as they're getting good results. They're treating the client great. One of the things that I do and all my clients appreciate is, and I personally do this, is I always check on them the next day. Hey, how's your skin doing from that treatment? Because that way they personally know, like, they're not just a number. They're not just money to me. I mean, obviously we're in the business to make money, but for me, just that kind of blue personality, want to always help and improve things. And so when clients feel that from the beginning, the walk-in, all the way to they got the treatment, and then like, she followed up to make sure I'm okay. And that way, if there's an issue, I can quickly remedy it instead of them like having to go to the emergency room or whatever. There's been some crazy stories out there of people getting burned with chemical peels. And so, it's really all about really good customer service, but for being a leader is leading by example and showing your estheticians or your staff that you really care, that it's not just about money, because there are businesses out there that it's just about money and numbers, and they usually don't last very long because people want to be cared about. They want to be treated kindly. And you know what? They want amazing results. Nobody wants mediocre results. So you have to be offering all those things. It's like this huge big package, like when you're looking for a life mate, you don't want to settle. You want all the things. And our clients want all the things, and our staff want all the things, our students, the estheticians, everyone wants all of that. And so if you're a great leader, you're giving them all of you. I always tell my students, if you take my class, I have no secrets. I teach you all my secrets because you're paying for that. And I want you, and I tell them stories about this happened to this client and this is what we did. And because I want them to have all of those, all of that knowledge to help make them a better person. If you have a higher caliber staff, you're going to have a better business.
Thank you. Thank you, both of you. I want to switch gears to Ryan. So just to kind of expand on what Ryan does, and Ryan focuses on helping practices perhaps that are doing $500,000 in collections a year to 5-10 million. And typically once you get to a certain stage, you have to build systems where you are not doing everything, right? So you have a marketing system, you have a playbook on how clients are treated, how the phone is answered. So pretty much almost like you become standardized, because as you scale, if one person gets one experience, so marketing is done one way today and another way tomorrow, people will get confused. The thing about consumers, you need to give them consistency in whatever you are doing. So Ryan, a comment that Hardik made in the beginning is he spent $500,000, and had he to do it all over again in his first location versus $65,000 in the second one to open it, if he were to do it all over again, he would have focused more on marketing. I know you work with, plastic surgeons, dermatologists, Medspa owners, and you help them with this. I guess, first of all, Ange talked about a different kind of marketing, which is you are the star, like you are the esthetician, you have your own Instagram page and you have a following and people come to it. I know you're going to talk about something totally different, which is it's not a person, it's a company with 10 people and you're building a brand, and you're finding a method for people to find that brand and love that brand and come to that brand and keep coming back to that brand. So it's a machine. So maybe you can talk about how does that machine work from your experience, all the way from how people find things today to how people are choosing doctors or choosing practices today. Maybe just give us an overview, and then I might ask some follow-up questions to all three of you.
Absolutely. No, and Hardik, I mean, you've absolutely nailed it 100 times over in terms of how people are looking to be, this is a very intimate industry, if you will, right? This is something where people want to be treated, and this is something that's not necessarily a need, but a want. This is something that they want to feel self-care and importance. And, and you've alluded to that importance and kind of really let us know kind of what the inside and behind the scenes are on that. And I really liked your comment about focusing on results and that sort of a thing, right? And you've talked about being able to showcase yourself. And that's really, whether it is a single esthetician or a large scale business, that's what really people want to see is, and Google, the ultimate machine of how people find people these days, want to see is, are you showcasing your expertise and your authority in your area, and that you're trusted in what you deliver, right? And as you mentioned, people aren't buying the treatment, people aren't buying a service, people aren't even buying a result. They're buying into you as the provider, as the service provider, as the business, right? And they're trusting you to really deliver on what they're looking for. So you want to make sure that when you're doing your marketing, when you're setting up your website, when you're doing your social media, when you're doing whatever aspect it is, you're really focused on, am I showing I'm an expert in this? Do I show that I have authority in this area? And do people trust me in this area, right? Am I getting love letter reviews on Google? And am I asking for them? And it's really interesting when I talk to people in this area, is it's a very fine line to walk, and it's very challenging, as I'm sure you both can attest to, of when you start up, you say, I'm the best, I'm an expert, I know what I'm doing, I'm fresh out of school, or whatever it is, I know what I'm doing, why aren't people coming to see me? Or they're on the other side of the coin of going, well, I'm brand new and I'm really shy and I want to go into a shell, and I hope people will come and see me. And hope isn't a strategy. So we want to make sure you're right down the middle of that and showcasing, like, I'm confident, I'm an expert, I have authority in this. This is what I do. And as Hardik was mentioning, you don't need to go out and say, I do it all. I am the Walmart of aesthetics, in that I do every service you could possibly imagine when you find me. You click on my services and the drop down goes for 7 pages long, because there's nothing in aesthetics I don't cover. But we feel like that is what we want to be able to do. We want to, we are people pleasers. We want to provide every solution, and we have every answer to everything we do, as opposed to, as he said, I'm an expert in what I do, and here's what I do. And I want to showcase to you my expertise and my authority, and why you should trust me providing these 2 services better than anybody else, right? And gaining that confidence. So it really is that fine line of, show confidence and build your online presence so that people can find you from a technical standpoint. You build a strong web page, a strong SEO presence, grow that marathon presence, and just, I'm sure you didn't have 50,000 followers day one. It took time, right? You slowly do it, but each milestone you hit is something you celebrate, right? And same thing, whether it's Google reviews, whether it's followers, whether it's whatever it is, you want to build that up as you go. So it is a marathon, not a sprint. As Hardik said, don't think about, if you're not in this for the long haul, you're probably not going to be successful. So consider this that marathon. Be a marathon runner, not a sprinter. You're not looking to win the 100-meter dash. You're looking to win the marathon, right? And build up that presence, build up that online presence with that strategy in mind, showcasing your expertise, your authority, your trustworthiness. Build those reels, build those videos, build those blogs and those articles and all those things that you're confident in to showcase that expertise, that authority. Show off that trustworthiness and all of those reviews you're getting when people are giving you referrals, all of those things. That is how you're going to build that long-term success. And you have to start, somewhere. That online footprint, that digital footprint starts at ground zero, your website, your social media channels, starting at post 1, at page 1, at whatever it is, and building that up over time, building that expertise, layering it on. As you do that, that's really what's going to get you found. What Google's going to see is that they pre-vet everybody they do. That's the difference between being at the top of page 1 and the bottom of page 11, right? Is Google's vetted you to know you have expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. And then, are you confident in showing it? And then I love how Ange said, I always say, digital marketing is 2-sided. Can people find you? Once they find you, why would they choose you? Well, once they've chosen you, and I'm going to use this one, Ange, from now on, are you the expert to deliver on what you've why they found you and why they've chosen you and why they're going to keep coming back. And that's the difference between, as Hardik was saying, that's the difference between quantity over quality, churning people through and them never coming back, or building that long-term, sustainable, successful business and using marketing as that tool to fuel that fire.
Thank you, Ryan. I do know a few things about marketing. So I want to just share some, hopefully some lessons that I have learned over the last 17 years. I'll tell you a story. I am from an island called Sri Lanka. I go to Chicago when I was 18 to do my undergrad. And I come from a family where my mom is like, you better get A's. In everything, 4.0, that's like minimum expectation. Anyways, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. And I come from a system where we don't have periodic exams, assignments. Pretty much you play the fool and then you study for the final exam and you do well. And that's the British system, right? You have these big exams, at the end of the semester. So that's what I was used to. But so the first semester, I was just really watching the game. I was watching how universities work in the US, like what are they looking for? And it took me a while to kind of understand the game. But once I understood it, I just played the game and I had a 4.0 when I graduated. So it was not like I was smarter than anybody else. I was working harder than anybody else. I just took the time to understand the game. And I feel like in anything in life, there is a game, and marketing, there's a game. So a couple of things that I've noticed. One is, the players, right? So you have Google, huge company, probably the number one company when it comes to digital marketing in the world. Then you have Facebook, which owns Instagram and Facebook, which is probably the number two company, in the world for marketing. And then you have all the traditional marketing. Now they used to be, bigger than Google and Facebook, and now they are a fraction of Google and Facebook each. So that's the other pie. And then you have the old ways, how people did things, right? Referrals and so forth. So today, the world has changed. So a few things once I understand the game, what I try to do is to play into it so that I have an advantage. I have a competitive advantage, because once you know the game, with half the effort or 1/3 the effort, you can get the best outcomes, the best results. So one of the things I know is we go to Google to find information, right? Today, we make our decisions by using Google, whether it's going to a restaurant or finding a Medspa, or finding a specific service because we have a wedding coming up. So when we go do the research, you better show up, because if you don't show up, at least for those millions and millions, right? At least in many communities, we see 100,000 people who will find you if you do things right. If you don't show up, they don't know you exist. So how can they even choose you if they don't know that you even exist, if they don't know that you can help them? So that's step number one, right? And you have two options, ads versus SEO. One thing I know about SEO is really hard. 5% of websites get 95% of the traffic. So if you're not in the 5%, don't even bother, because you're wasting your time and money. But if you are in that 5%, you're going to get 95% of the free traffic. So you have an unfair advantage. So I always believe in, getting the most unfair advantage, the biggest result for the least effort. So I'm a big fan of SEO. So I would recommend try to get into that top 5% in your community who ranks for every keyword under the sun. Like many of our clients, hundreds of keywords on page 1 of Google. So that's step one. And if you do that, your cost of a new patient would be a fraction, like sometimes 10%, 20%, versus using ads, for example. So if ads are going to cost you $400 a new patient, Google SEO will cost you $40 a new patient. So you have this unfair advantage. Now you can use that extra profit to invest in your business, make your business even more profitable and so forth. So that's one lesson. Social media is wonderful if you are someone who likes social media. What I mean is you can't delegate it. You can't ask your assistant to do it. You have to do it. You have to create the content. You have to be willing to put yourself out there with videos and so forth. If you are that kind of a person, it's beautiful. But don't do it just because everybody else is doing it, because if you're not passionate about it, if you're not that outgoing person who loves to share content and share your own stories, with the world, then it won't work for you. A classic example of people who do that well is Pimple Popper is an example of someone who does that unbelievably well. So I know a bunch of people who do really, really well. So if you're in that group, that's another advantage. And then last but not least are ads. But this is what you need to keep in mind about ads. Number one, they're more expensive. Google ads are typically 5 times more expensive than SEO. Facebook ads are probably 10 times more expensive than SEO. I'm talking about great SEO versus great Google ads or great Facebook ads. And the reason they're more expensive is because it's an ad, people trust it less. So you need a lot more people because they spend a fraction of the time. So if a SEO person will spend 90 seconds, an ad person will only spend 15 seconds. So you need a lot more people to get the same benefit. Now, social media, there's two problems. One is when we are on a social media, Instagram scrolling, we are not interested in Botox. We are interested in that friend who's showing up on our news feed, or we are interested in a celebrity who we are following and we see what they're up to. Because we are like, as humans, we are thinking about one thing, showing an ad for something else typically doesn't work. So typical average person who comes from social media ads will spend 5 seconds. So again, you need a lot more people. So just understand the game. I'm not saying do this or do that. You can use all of it, but know like what game you want to play, when do you want to play it? And, of course, if anybody wants to talk more about your specific marketing, I would recommend talking to Ryan because he has some experience on that. So maybe Ryan, you can include your link. Let me switch gears and ask Hardik. You said marketing is something that you really, really believe in, right? What's your take on marketing, Hardik? What are some of the things you would tell our audience today about marketing?
Yeah, for me, when I think about marketing, I think about think about the online and digital space as real estate, so to speak. The more real estate I can take up, the more likely my brand is going to be everywhere. For me, it's not about surviving, it's about dominating. And when I open up in an area, I know that 80% of any existing businesses that are there are not going to be much of a match. It's only about 10 to 20% that I'm worried about. And I'm not saying that to sound like a jerk, but what I want people to understand is that if you want to build something big, if you want to build something that is really going to kind of stand, the test of time, so to speak, and you're going to be there in this space for the next 10, 15, 20 years, you have to look at things like how much of this real estate can I take up? So that boils down to being found on Google, being found on YouTube, which is the second biggest search engine that we sometimes overlook, being found on social media. And for me, social media is very important. I wish I could be a little bit better at it. For sure, we're doing okay. We have close to 25,000 followers, but we really dominate Google because 70% of my clientele to 85% will actually come from Google. Because when people are searching, I'm found from within a radius of anywhere from 15 to 25 miles around my location. And I really believe in that. Now, social media, there are some pros and cons to it. The pros are if you're trying to build a business on a limited budget, it's an opportunity to really invest in yourself, really kind of showcase your work. Not everyone is great on camera. Not everyone's going to be able to pull it off, but there are a few people who have been incredibly successful. And they've basically spent close to $0 because they really built something wonderful on social media. But 90 to 95% of us is not going to be that person. And that's unfortunately the honest truth. So for most of us, we are going to have to think about building out content on our site. Google loves seeing fresh content being uploaded, and original content. If you're just copying other people, again, that's not going to work. Something as simple as setting up your Google My Business listing. People ignore that. Asking for reviews. Yes, I ask for reviews. And I will look at a patient directly in their eyes. Are you happy? Do you like this? If you do, I need you to write me a review, please, because this is the proof that I need where I'm very transparent with them, almost blunt. And I make them write it while they are standing there right there. Because these are signals that Google looks at. Like, some people are like, well, you really shouldn't ask patients. Why shouldn't I ask people? This is my business. This is one way I'm going to showcase it. And if I have a client before me that's happy, ask them for a review and put the computer or laptop down in front of them. Please, can you write a review? You'd be amazed. There are enough people. And if you can get just one review a day, that's going to work out to about 200 to 250 reviews a year, which is already going to put you in the upper echelon at the end of 1 year. And last thing I want to say about social media is, yes, it's important. It's great. It's here to stay, but these platforms change all the time. If you're popular on Facebook 10 years ago, it's almost irrelevant now. And guess what? In another 5 years, Instagram's going to be irrelevant. And probably TikTok's going to be on its way out. So, I think you have to diversify your marketing is the final point I want to make. It's not just social media, it's not Google. And the other thing, it depends finally, is what kind of brand do you want to build? If you want to build something big, multi-location, multi-state practice, the problem with just showcasing a few people on social media is that your brand will never override the personalities. Where if you are showcasing, if you're a one-person job, and if that's what you want to be and that's what you want to grow, perfect. But if you want to build an organization, the brand has to supersede the person. Where the brand is much more important than just one or two people, because people come and go. What happens if your star injector decides to leave and she's showcased on social media all the time? So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you so much. I would agree with pretty much every comment you made. And I do agree that, see, our mind has limited capacity, right? I'm sure we all have heard this saying that we can remember 7 things at the most. So I like what Hardik said about own it, dominate it. It's not like he's being mean, just because if they're thinking of you, they're not thinking of your competition. So your job is to dominate. And the way, I suggest doing it is like, if you are dominating SEO, show up for every keyword under the sun. I'm not talking 5 keywords. I'm talking 500 keywords.
5,000 even.
Yeah.
Don't stop at 500.
Everything, you never stop. Keep going.
That's right.
So that way, whatever they're looking for, they're going to keep seeing you again and again. And I don't live in the US, I live in Canada. So what I'm going to say, I have no perspective either ways, but if you remember the primaries, the Republican primaries in 2016, one thing Trump did well is he owned the media. I mean, I'm talking about in the primary cycle, right? They would interview his competition and they'll ask about Trump. Like, it's like, because he says some crazy stuff and they will ask about him from everybody else. But what happens with our brain is if we keep hearing about something again and again, we're going to remember that person. Doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, or whether we agree or whether we disagree. It's just like he owns our brain. I mean, it's a brilliant marketing technique. And so I do think in marketing, you have to be thinking about domination. Don't be a nice person. I mean, yes, patient care, it's about nice. Marketing, it's about like what they remember. So anyway, so I'm a big fan of that mindset, just because it works, right? And I also agree that there's a difference between a personal brand where it's an individual versus, a practice. And I think many of you who have big ambitions, you want to build a bigger business where you don't want to be the one who's doing all the work. You want to have a team. Be careful of building the marketing around your brand as opposed to a person. So I would agree with that. Angie, let me just switch gears and let me ask you your question. I love your background. You are a customer and you are a teacher and you are a owner and you shared why you got into it because of your grandma, right? So you really understand from every angle. And being honest, I'm not a customer like you are, right? I mean, you live it. So what's your take, both as a consumer, as an educator, as an owner? Like, what's your take on marketing?
I mean, like I said, my first couple of years in business, I didn't really do much marketing. I didn't do any paid marketing because I was small. I didn't utilize social media because I really just didn't have the skills. And so I just kind of relied on, I have a great reputation, in the state of Utah. I'm one of the top educators. And so I just thought, oh, well, just because people know I'm doing it, they're going to come and see me, And I mean, like I said, I taught thousands of students. And actually, that is my second largest customer base, our estheticians. And because we want services too, right? But yeah, I mean, people don't know about you. I think Hardik, I can't remember if it was Ryan or Hardik said this, but you have to let people know that you're there, So marketing is so important. And yeah, and some people are just like, I just struggle with it. I feel uncomfortable. Then I just say, just hire someone to help you. But you want to get out your name and your brand and what you're offering. Because if people don't know, then they don't know. I've had clients come before and we're talking and like, what is that machine? What is that machine? Oh, I didn't know you offer that. And so there's lots of things out there, and you just have, it's like a menu, like, okay, here is my menu. And this is what I offer. And I always teach estheticians, I'm like, find a niche, because here in Utah, it's, and I don't know like how other states are. I've taught in North Carolina and Arkansas as well, but here, I don't know if you know, Utah is like, we are like the most estheticians here. Master esthetician license was first passed here in like 2001, and we have just so many girls that come from out of state. They want to learn that. And so, yeah, but you just have to market yourself. You've got to let people know what you offer. One thing I appreciate, somebody was saying about Google is, there's Google My Business. I think they renamed it something else, but I did that right when I got started. And so I do ask my clients, like Hardik was saying, I love that. I'm going to use that. Like, are you happy? Do you love this? But because sometimes I'll just ask my clients, hey, if you loved your treatment, if you would please give me a review, I would appreciate it. And so I have only 5-star reviews on Google, which I'm so happy about, because I try to give, like, from the front to the back, the best customer service and the best results. And for me, that kind of is part of your marketing, is like, because I don't know, I'm sure people have been like, oh my gosh, like this school or something was like, it's so amazing. And then when you go, you didn't feel comfortable, and you didn't feel like you got good classes, and you didn't feel like they finished the wow that they were marketing. So you have to be a great marketer, or find someone that can do it for you. I always say, I always tell my students, I'm not good at makeup, and I just never wear makeup. And I say, I can't be good at everything, but I can find someone who is. So for the girls out there, anyone that's watching, if you're not good at marketing, it makes you feel uncomfortable, that's okay. There are lots of people, I'm sure, like you and Ryan, that are out there that are available to help people with their marketing, because you have to have both. You've got to have the marketing and the skills and the results, and combine those together to have the best practice and the best results. And, it's sad. I see a lot of girls, and I say girls because mainly most estheticians are girls, but, on the groups that I'm in, and they're closing their business down because they're not getting business, but they're not really marketing. Their social media is, there's not much social media. They're not really marketing because they didn't have the money. So I liked how Hardik was saying, you got to have a plan. So you got to have a plan. You got to have the money. You got to have the marketing. You got to have the skills. You got to have everything. You just have to have like this checklist, and you check all the boxes, and you have to be really good at everything, or hire the people that are really good at everything.
Absolutely. I do think both Hardik and Ange said, have a plan, have a budget. And I also agree with Hardik. Like, I have seen so many practice owners spend so much money on expensive things, build out these expensive lasers. I mean, literally, don't write $10,000 or $100,000 checks, especially when you're starting out. Even if it's God's gift to mankind, don't do it, because that now you end up working for the business, and you don't have a business yet. So you're ending up working for the banker, and you are, like Hardik did, doing a second job. I mean, that's typically what happens, to pay the bills to the banker, or you shut it down. Those are the two choices. So if you don't want to go there, like, really be careful with capital expenses. Anything where it's more than $10,000, don't write it, But if it's a monthly expense and it really makes sense, where it's going to help you build your business, then again, be carefully invest in it and do it. Two other things: reviews. People think we talk to our friends and find out who they see. They don't. I mean, especially in aesthetics, it doesn't happen. Really, Google reviews has become how we find things today. So if you have 5-star reviews, if you have 100 reviews, 200 reviews, especially those paragraph reviews where somebody writes 4 or 5 sentences, it not only helps patients appreciate you more, but also Google will find you, because both of them talked about Google My Business. Like, I look at stats all day long, and, some clients get, 300 phone calls just from their Google My Business page in 1 month, they get 75 people, 300 people looking up directions, 30,000 people just finding them on Google My Business. Leave the SEO, leave the website just on Google My Business. So it has become this machine that's a referral machine. So don't ignore it. Don't say, oh, it's too hard. My patients don't write reviews. I hear stories like, oh, they're too old. They're this, they're that. Cut through all the nonsense. If you have to stand there like Hardik did or Angie does and say, you know what, are you happy with me? Yes or no? If you are, write that review right now. Almost like blunt, right? I think that's the mindset you need to have. And to Angie's point, I mean, if you're not good at it, I think talk to Ryan. Ryan, one thing he can do is he can find out how you are doing on Google and he can tell you. Google looks at six things. If you do those 6 things really, 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 really well, you're going to be in the top 5%, top 1%. You're going to rank for hundreds of keywords. If you don't, nobody will find you unless you give Google ad money. So, Ryan can run a test for you and tell you how you're doing on Google Lighthouse Score, how you're doing on NAP, how you're doing on Google Eat, all the 6 things that Google cares about, original content, all the things that Google cares about. And once you know where you stand, come up with a plan, right? Your future is not going to come to you unless you come up with a plan, like both our panelists said today, and then you execute on it. Anyways, that's just my 2 cents before we jump into the next things. Is it okay if we continue for another 10 minutes or so, if that's okay with the 2 of you?
Yeah.
I mean, all of you? Perfect.
Yeah, I think 10 minutes is all I can muster. The missus is kind of peeking into the doorway, giving me the side eye. So,
Thank you for that.
I think
I owe her something. I'll send her something for giving you to us for a few more minutes. So I want to ask you a kind of a pointed question, because I want to make sure that I'm hearing your perspective as well, not just my questions. What would you like to tell our listeners about things that you wish you had known, or things that they need to pay attention to? We touched on marketing, we touched on leadership, we touched on culture, we touched on mistakes. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to give you the recipe to succeed. That's what I'm going to do. Okay. If you do what I did for my second location, you do it well, you have better than 80-90% chance of success. First, look for areas where you haven't had a lot of penetration yet in terms of the businesses, and they're out there. What's going on is, as some of these urban and suburban areas are getting saturated, people are moving a little bit further away. So this is creating new opportunities. So look for opportunities. Our second location was at a place where you wouldn't even think would sustain a med spa. But one of the things you'll recognize is that what we do, these services, matter to a lot of different demographics, a lot of different socioeconomic groups. When I first got into this, I was under the impression that I'm going to get wealthy white ladies coming in here. The landscape has changed. And while still majority of that sector is still driven by Caucasian women, we are seeing this change. We are seeing a younger demographics come in. We're seeing, people of different racial makeups start to come in. And so don't discount the fact that the services that we are offering do appeal to a wide swath of people. So look for those opportunities in areas that you may not have originally considered because they are not a wealthy area. Okay. Number 2, keep it simple. Look for spaces that are already built out, that have the structure, and all you're going to go in and maybe spend $15,000-$20,000 for a cosmetic facelift is what I like to call it. We even went in on a weekend and did the painting ourselves. Now, I can easily afford to pay someone to hire it, but you know what? Get your hands dirty. Try to save a little bit of money, and that's it. Do the painting yourself. Everyone's got a wife or a husband who's a little bit more handy with the stuff, can hang some shelves, do the painting. Your first location does not have to be, Shangri-La. Just get it up and running. Make it look nice. Make it look clean. That's it. Third location is keep your staff simple. A great front desk person, and whether you're the injector or whether you're hiring an injector, start with limited staff, but get them really entrenched into the culture early on. Again, It is all about keeping your costs down and maximizing the assets you can get in the beginning. Fourth, don't buy a lot of equipment. And if you really have a craving for equipment, buy a micro needling pen for a couple thousand. Consider buying a centrifuge or PRP, where you invest 5,000, you'll get a whole bunch of kits. Buy a secondhand laser. And if you are going to buy another laser, take that 80,000, 100,000 that you would have spent over the next couple of years, invested towards marketing, building your brand. Because unless you can drive people into your business, the best equipment in the world is not going to make a difference. But don't ignore the marketing. Start small. Get someone to just really set up your GMB page. Get 1 or 2 reviews a week. It's really not that hard. And ultimately, as you grow, start focusing on that social media strategy. And you can do this concurrently, because that probably is not going to cost you anything, and then start building out content, YouTube videos, Instagram videos, TikTok videos, educational videos, and just take baby steps. Be careful of where you're spending your money. Keep it simple and keep it to the top 2 procedures, accounting for 50% of all revenues from non-surgical cosmetic procedures are Botox and fillers. Not Emsculpt Neo for $300,000 plus. And forgive me if anyone's got it and is making a killing. God bless. You guys are amazing. But for most of us, keep it simple. The fear of missing out on this great technology that the spa down the street has is going to be your downfall. So don't do that. And find yourself partners and mentors who are willing to work with you and educate you. Groups like this that are going to really give you insight. We did not have any of this 15 years ago. So most of you are at a significantly advantaged position. So, listen to these good people. I think they have a good pulse on things, and they're really going to help shape your future. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Hardik. Ange, same question to you.
Yeah, I totally agree. And just kind of a recap, you have to start with a plan and have the financial. Speaking as an esthetician, I see a lot of girls that say they're just going to graduate and they're going to open their place. I usually recommend, go get some experience, work for somebody else, learn what to do and what not to do, because both of those things are so important. And I like that Hardik said, I've been doing this 18 years. 15 years ago, there was not, there wasn't a lot of people out there combining the marketing kind of idea with the services, which is so important. And to me, that's the big piece that people are missing. Thankfully, I just was able to kind of figure it out. But yeah, and I say, for estheticians, for providers out there, training is so important. I appreciate how Hardik was said he took the 6-hour class and was injecting people. I'm sure now he does things so much more different than when he did. I know I totally do, which is why I love teaching, because I want to show not just the basic class way to do things, but clients want results, and so we really need to continue. I always continue my training. I'm always looking, what can I learn more? How can I be better? How can I offer better results? And clients want to see that. So I ask my clients, I always take before and after pictures every single time. I really just focus on corrective skincare. I'm not doing any Brazilians or anything like that. So with corrective skincare though, and I show them their picture, and then some of them just have like the most amazing results. And I'm like, are you okay if I share that? And usually they're so happy. Ask them right then. They're so happy with the results because, they've had a couple gears removed in like 40-minute treatment. And they're like, yeah, you can totally share. And that's when I really started building my business more for me personally, was showing before and after pictures, because people want to see, sometimes when you see somebody's out there marketing something and you're like, these pictures look like they're retouched. They don't look like true pictures. They want to see true pictures. And then they want to be able to go to Google and read your reviews. What are your clients saying? Not just, oh, I gave you a 5-star review and you're great. But they want to say, she really took care of me. She helped me improve my pigmentation. She got rid of my son's acne was cleared up. And those are the specific things people want to see. So they want to read it. People want to see they want to see the pictures, and they want to kind of get to know you as a person. So as you're educating yourself and getting better, share some of those tips. I'll share like a skin tip, like, oh, here's a skin tip for you, because clients then feel like you're giving them so much value that they're like, wow, she's helpful. She's giving me value. She's showing me amazing before and after pictures. The reviews are amazing. Why would I not choose her? So you kind of got to give them, again, that whole package. But for people that are starting in the industry, I think you need some experience. And I think some people kind of miss that. A lot of estheticians I see that are closing just started right out of school because it's a dream. It's an awesome dream, but there's no plan and no money. So that really doesn't make for a great business.
Thank you, Ange. I do agree. I know we didn't touch on this. Before and after pictures are huge, especially for marketing, especially like to show that you are the expert. Like, let's say I'm Googling something and I end up on that page having like 6 sets of before and after pictures. They are like gold. And the beautiful thing is they will work for you for 10, 20 years. So that one picture will work for the next 20 years. And I agree, don't touch it up. Don't use other people's pictures. Don't use stock photos. The more it's you, the more credibility you're going to have and the more people are going to trust you. I know Emily is sharing information about Hardik as well as Ange, like what they do, to learn more about, and follow them. I'm going to have both of you just share anything else you want to share. But before I do that, Ryan, 1 minute. I know everyone is kind of itching to go. What are your final thoughts?
You're trying to keep me under 1 minute, Naren. That's a tough task.
I know you can talk for 20.
A marketing guy. Got to keep it close. But no, this is exactly it. I mean, exactly like they said. Have a plan. Have your presence online, your footprint, as you mentioned, right? If it's a paid ad or if it's social media, you got 5 or 15 seconds to showcase your expertise, your authority, your trustworthiness, to show what you do, why you're the best at it, and convince people to come and see you and trust you with their care. If it's organically through that SEO, top of Google, as Hardik said, dominating keywords, you're going to have 90 seconds to go through that journey. And in that, you have to remember, exactly as Andrew was saying, make sure you're showing off what you do so well, why you're the best at what you do. Have confidence in showing that off. Show your videos, show your blogs, your articles. As Hardik said, everything's got to be original. Make it about you. What's your brand? What's your image? Who are you? Not that you can Control-C, Control-V, cut and paste things and throw it up on a web page. What makes you, you? And in those galleries, in those before and afters, show a wide variety of who you treat. You know what? And we talk, as Hardik said, you're looking for those Caucasian women, and that's where the money's coming from. That's what's going on. I might land on your page, Naren might land on your page. If we don't see people who look like us on your page, we're going to go, this isn't for us either. I guess I'm going to back out and find somebody who treats your middle-aged gingers like myself, right? And I want somebody like that. You're the men or whatever else it is. Show off everything you do. Be confident in what you do. And as Ange said, I'm not going into a room. I know a lot about this industry. You're not putting a needle in my hand, and I'm not doing injections. I'm sticking to the marketing. That's what I do well. If marketing isn't what you do well, this is where someone like me, Naren, this is where we come in to say, let us help you, let us guide you, use us to show you the way to do things and get those shortcuts. As Naren was saying, there are ways to do it. You don't have to make it hard. Everybody's had their practice of how to get to the top. This is what we do. We're going to make sure that that's the case. We're going to guide you down that right path. You're in good hands. Coming here, first step, obviously you want to learn all of that. So follow through and really dominate your space, be confident in what you do. And, that's that combination of bringing marketing with your expertise to the table to get you to the top.
Thank you so much.
I was close to 60 seconds. That was pretty close.
Hardik, tell us about, I know you talked about what you do, but I know we didn't get enough time. There's more information about the different things you're part of and different things you do, including your Facebook group. Any final thoughts about your life and you and anything that you want to tell our audience, perhaps that you can help them with?
No, I just want to thank you for the opportunity. I I wish I would have met you 15 years ago, because I've gone through 8 different marketing companies before I finally landed on mine presently. I think in your industry, there's a lot of bad actors, especially
Yes.
when it comes into this space. And I can tell that someone who takes the time to craft a community like this must really be entrenched into serving, their customers and their clients, into building something that's going to benefit them. So I think, as a last message to the people here, I would say, this is fantastic. And I think if you're going to go with a marketing person, someone like Naren, who's taken the time, and Ryan, to build all of this, that for me is actually very amazing to see that. And, these are the type of people I want to work with, because it's not going to be a bunch of BS. You can clearly see the amount of thought and time that they take in putting something together like this for their viewers and for their clients and members. So I appreciate what you're doing here, and that's it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. And the metric I'm proud of is 95% of our clients never leave us. I have clients from 2007 when you started today.
Yeah.
And Mary Lupo,
See that.
who's one of the
Sure.
best dermatologists in the world, she's still a client. She was our second client. So thank you for that. And you're right. If you do things right, success, I like to say, overnight success, years in the making. Like everybody who looks amazing and they are winning awards, they didn't just jump out of the sky. They just had a vision and a plan, and they stuck with it, and they just, gave years and years to build on it and build on it and build on it. So thank you for that. Appreciate it. And I think, Hardik, I'm meeting you for the first time. I think you are an amazing guy. You have done interesting things too. And I was looking at your Facebook group, looks pretty impressive. So, I think it's just long-term thinking, and, just thinking about 5-10 years out, and then just creating that future.
Yeah.
And anything you want to share about, that perhaps you can help our audience with, or anything else you want to share?
Yeah, so for the esthetician side, and then I just see that Cami said, as a critical care nurse practitioner, she didn't get any marketing skills. We didn't really get that in school. I'm sure, I don't know, physician school, they give you marketing skills, but most people that are out here opening the businesses and performing the services, sadly, we didn't get much marketing skills. We didn't get much business skills. There wasn't this is how you open a business, and this is how you market, and this is how your social media. And so, that is continuing education. It's like, you know what, I'm not good at those things. I need to learn. So for people out there, don't feel discouraged. If you're not good at that, just find somebody who is. And then, for anyone out there, one of the things that I started doing is I realized, I like how Hardik said, go to a place where you think, you wouldn't suspect there's a lot of people that want your business, but there is, it's not just white women that want services, I specialize in treating skin of color, and I teach that class. And so once people kind of find oh, she does that and she knows what she's doing and she's good, then they come and find you. But if you want to do those things and you're not good at it, I offer one-on-one Zoom classes. I do have a couple webinars, but I prefer one-on-one Zoom. I like to talk to people and see them, and we do theory, and I show them what to do, and I watch them what to do, and I help them and guide them. And then I don't just cut them off. They can always ask me questions after that. So there's so many resources out there. If you find a little place where you're not good at it, just reach out to somebody who is. We're all here to help. And that's what it is. You're just putting all that together and just being the best you that you can for your clients.
Thank you, Hardik. Thank you, Ange. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, everyone here. Really appreciate all of you. I learned a lot from this, so thank you. And I'm having fun. So I hope you guys do well with your practices, with everything you are doing, and have a wonderful rest of the evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Business of Aesthetics podcast series, brought to you by our gold sponsors, MRP, Laser Uptech, and Equa Marketing, and silver sponsors, Lengia Law, Eilis Works, and Pronox. Would you like to join our growing group of aesthetic industry experts and get featured on the Business of Aesthetics podcast? Or do you know someone who would love to share their strategies for growth in the aesthetics business, providing quality patient care or their clinical expertise? Head on over to www.businessofaesthetics.org/podcast-show and apply to be featured as a guest on the show. Remember to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Amazon Music, or wherever you listen. If you would like to engage with today's or any of our past speakers, join our Facebook group or LinkedIn group by searching for Business of Aesthetics. Thank you and have a great day.